This is a stimulus update and daily news report, and there are big stimulus changes confirmed. President Biden confirming that the $3.5 trillion package is probably going to be split up. The other portion of that package is going to be passed in 2022, which means that Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema have won this battle. I'm going to play a video clip from President Biden talking more about the details. When it comes to it being passed, Pramila Jayapal, Progressive Caucus leader, still saying that it will get done. I'm going to play a video clip from Bernie Sanders explaining why the delay happened and how corporate lobbyists have caused the delay for this package and preventing people from getting more stimulus. And I'll give you some other more important updates as well. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend. If you appreciate the fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below, and I'm giving $200 to my subscribers. I'll talk more about that later on in the video, but first, let's go over the big news here. So Biden says spending bill likely won't be $3.5 trillion this year, but we're going to keep coming. And then another one right here, Biden, we're not going to get $3.5 trillion in budget reconciliation. And another one here, Biden admits $3.5 trillion plan won't pass free community college axed. So we're going to start to see a lot more different programs being axed, or maybe in a future reconciliation bill for 2022. Here is the speech from President Biden talking more about what he's cutting, what's being taken out, and what are the stimulus plans moving forward. That would really make his day. So congrats to you, Liam, and everyone who is supporting. Thank you so much for that. And here is the video clip from President Biden.
I'm here today to talk about what's fundamentally at stake right now, in my view, for the families, not only of Connecticut, because you're ahead of the curve in some of what you've done on your own, but for our country. For a long time, America set the pace across the globe. For most of the 21st century, we literally led the world by a significant margin in the investments we invested in our own people, Not only our roads, our highways, our bridges, but on our people and on our families. And we didn't just build the interstate highway system and invest to win the space race. We also were among the first to provide access to free education beginning back at the turn of the 20th century. It was a distinction and a decision to invest in our children and our families, and it's a major reason why we were able to lead the world in the 21st century, one of the few nations in the world, at universal education for everyone, beginning in what was then first grade. But somehow along the way, we sort of stopped investing in our people. Our infrastructure has fallen from the best in the world. According to the World Economic Forum, our infrastructure ranks 13th in the world. Roads, bridges, highway, a whole range of things. But just as important as the Organization of Economic Opportunity and Cooperation now ranks America 35 out of 37 major countries when it comes to investing in early childhood education and care. Say another way, the world's catching up and beginning to pass us. Jill has, my community college, Dr. Biden, has an expression she's used for real. Any country that educates us will outcompete us. Any country that out-educates us will outcompete us. We cannot be competitive in the 21st century in this global economy if we fail to invest. That's why I propose two critical pieces of legislation being debated in Washington right now. They're both bills. They're not about left versus right. They're not about moderate versus progressive, or anything else that pits one American against another. These bills, in my view, are literally about competitiveness versus complacency, about opportunity versus decay, and about leading the world or continue to let the world move by us. Folks, a lot of folks know what's at stake in the infrastructure bill. It's about rebuilding the arteries of our economy, putting people to work in good paying jobs. The estimates from Wall Street would create up to 16 million new jobs over time. Good paying jobs, union jobs, not $5 an hour, $7, 15, but $40, $50 an hour, prevailing wage. You can raise a family on, you can live with some dignity and pride. Bringing our roads and bridges up to speed, replacing lead water pipes. There's over 40,000 schools across America where you got to be worried when you go to the water fountain, whether there's lead in the water and the children are being poisoned. You can turn on the faucet so that every place in America, but you're sure the water is clean and able to be laying transmission lines for a modern and resilient energy grid. Making high-speed internet affordable and available everywhere in America, from urban, suburban, rural. There's parts of the country that are just being left behind. And there are parts of the country in states that are economically prosperous that are being left behind. Meeting the moment on the climate crisis, and in the process creating millions of good paying jobs. You know, I've had a couple conferences already held. I'm going to COP26 in Scotland shortly. And I guess I had 71 heads of state on the first one I did in the White House. And I said, and people are starting to talk about it now, not about me, about the idea. When I think climate, I think jobs, good paying jobs, union jobs. This is an opportunity. We're the only country in the world that has consistently turned difficulty into opportunity. We have a chance to not only make this world more livable, but to actually create greater opportunity for people. Making landmark investments in public transit and rail, and increasing efficiency, reducing emissions. You know, there's millions of kids getting on diesel school buses, and inhaling air, getting asthma. They should be electric buses. So look, I'm going to have a tendency to say more than I need to say because you all understand it, but the bottom line is I wanted to come here today because too many folks in Washington still don't realize it isn't enough just to invest in our physical infrastructure. We also have to invest in our people. And that's what the second bill does, the Build Back Better initiative. Seeing children and educators here at this center is a perfect reminder of what our families need and our economy needs so badly to be able to thrive. You know, you all know the statistics, particularly the teachers here. A child coming out of a single parent house where there's real difficulty will hear literally 1 million fewer words spoken, not different words, spoken, than the child coming out of a middle class household. And so no matter what you say, you start them at the same age, at age 6 or 7, 5 or 6 in school, they're already behind the curve, How can we compete in a world of millions of Americans' parents, especially moms, can't be part of the workforce because they can't afford the cost of child care or elder care, I might add. Elder care. They're the sandwich generation getting crushed. Here in Connecticut, the average annual cost to bring your toddler to a quality child care center is about $16,000 a year. That's what it is around the country. Some places more, some places a little less. A lot of money. It's $16,000 after taxes, after you pay your taxes. So the average two-parent family with 2 young kids spends 26% of their income on child care every year. My Build Back Better plan is going to change that. It's going to cut the cost of child care for most Connecticut families literally in half. No middle-class family will pay more than 7% of their income on child care. Help parents get back into the workforce and make ends meet. Or maybe care for that. We have to do the same. I'm not going to talk about it today, but the other piece of it you all know, it deals with elder care. You got 80,000 people waiting to qualify under Medicaid, and there's no spaces. We can afford to do this. But at any rate, we also have to provide businesses with tax credits to build on-site care facilities. Look, you in the legislature were way ahead of the curve. You decided that for people working in the legislature, there should be a place for their children. Well, you know, what we want to do is make sure that we encourage businesses to do the same, to get a significant tax cut, to be able, if they have an on-site facility, to take care of their workers' children when they show up. So you go to work with your child, and you have a serious facility on site. Well, studies show that when you have on-site care for a children's center, businesses, the business itself, have less employee turnover, less absenteeism, and higher productivity. We show you all those studies. It's real. We can't afford to lag behind other countries when they're investing. When America made 12 years of public education universal more than a century ago, it gave the best educated, best prepared workforce in the world to the rest of the world. But if we're designing public education today, all of a sudden we had none, we said, okay, what are we going to do? We need free public education. Does anybody think we'd think 12 years was enough in the second quarter of the 20th? The fact is today only about half of 3- and 4-year-olds in America are enrolled in early education, childhood education like you're doing here. In Germany, France, and the UK, even Latvia, the number of children in those countries enrolled is 90%. 90%. My plan gets us back on track. provides 2 years of high-quality preschool for every child in America. It also makes investments in higher education by increasing Pell Grants. I don't know whether I can get it done, but I also have proposed this free community college, like you've done here in the state of Connecticut, to help students from lower income families attend community college and four-year schools. And invest in historically black colleges and universities to make sure young people from every neighborhood have a shot at good paying jobs in the future.
What are your thoughts on what President Biden had to say? So it looks like President Biden pretty much admitting defeat to Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, and Biden's soft touch with Manchin and Sinema frustrates Democrats because the big majority of Democrats wanted this to pass, and all it took was just two Senate Democrats to say no, and changes the whole course of everything. So a lot of them, what they're saying here is both of them have left the president hanging. Pramila Jayapal, though, still says that of reconciliation and infrastructure bills that Democrats will get that done, the takeout. So she's still on point with that. So what she said is those 5 priorities still need to be in the final bill. The takeout, or saying it was in the takeout podcast, you can significantly cut down on the price tag by funding some of these programs for a shorter period of time. So still sticking to the plan of making it cheaper, but just having it for a short amount of time, but having every program in there. Bernie Sanders saying that Sanders blaming spending bill delay on corporate lobbying, basically saying that a lot of the politicians are being paid off. For example, Sinema rakes in pharma and finance cash amid reconciliation negotiations. So what happened here is the senator raised more than $1.1 million in the third quarter, and about 90% of it came from outside of her home state. So that's pretty much how the game works in Congress. They raise money. Pharmaceutical industries, oil industries pay a lot of money for their future campaign and say, hey, we just need you to do this one thing for us, or multiple things. Here is Bernie Sanders explaining more about that process.
Do you know how much money, Anderson, that the pharmaceutical industry has spent against us in this effort because they want to make sure that we continue paying the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs? Do you have any idea?
No.
Anybody know? They are spending hundreds of millions of dollars. In fact, $200 million on lobbying alone. They have 1,500 lobbyists in Congress for 535 members. They will probably spend $500 million alone.
Do you think that's impacting Senator Sinema and Senator Manchin? Because, I mean, those are the two Democrats who are holding things up for you.
Well, it's not just them. You got people in the House. Do I think when the ruling elite of this country spends many, many hundreds of millions of dollars, often lying in their ads, and when they buy, lobbyists from the former Democratic and Republican leaders, does it have an impact? Of course it has an impact. But I think at the end of the day, when you have so many people, overwhelming majority of the American people, saying, you know what, we got to demand that the wealthiest people and the largest corporations, who in a given year don't pay a nickel in federal given taxes. Large corporations don't pay a nickel in federal taxes. People like Bezos and Elon Musk, two of the richest people in the world in a given year, don't pay a nickel in taxes. I mean, what the American people, whether you're Democrat, Republican, or independent, are saying, you know what? They've got to start paying their fair share of taxes so we can address the needs of working families. That's what this whole thing is about.
What are your thoughts on Bernie Sanders explaining the corruption in Congress? Let me know down in the comments below. So this article right here, this group of Americans is angling for new $1,400 stimulus checks. So as these stimulus check articles come out, I want to share it with you and let you know what's going on. So this is still for the Senior Citizens League, for the $1,400 checks for seniors who have Social Security. I've seen a lot in your comments saying that, what about everyone else? What about SSDI? What about people who don't have kids or not senior citizens? What about that group? So far, there haven't been any groups lobbying for stimulus checks for that group. And as I mentioned before, the $1,400 stimulus check is not in any package. And it looks like there may not even be a package for anything to be in. Everything is still kind of moving. Pieces are moving. I'll keep you update on that. When it comes to a fourth stimulus check for the Change.org, $2,000 per month to every American, it is at 2,927,000 signatures so far. And as much need as there is for a fourth stimulus check, I think a lot of people are desperately in need of it and are struggling, but a fourth stimulus check is not in any package either, and no politicians are pushing for it at the moment.